Hey, we're switching our attention to matters at Aston Villa, and I'm delighted to say we're joined by the host of Villa Spaces, Ty Bracey. Ty, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, gents. I'm good. How about yourself?
Yeah, not bad. I do wonder if one of Steven Gerrard's biggest problems is that the team is boring to watch at the moment. That there's no joy about being a Villa fan. That there's nothing to get. You're like, even though the collection of players should be really good, there's just nothing to hang your hat on and go, I'm delighted to be sitting down here for the next 90 minutes and like getting behind this group. What's happened at the moment that's the case?
Things are very stale. It's not the most enjoyable football we've seen in recent times. We're not looking very good in front of goal. Our final third product just isn't there. It's really tough at the minute to watch as a fan. It's quite frustrating, and we've got a striker who's out of form when the opportunities do arise. So it's a tough one for us as fans, really, because we don't look dangerous when we're going forward. I said last night, the only game I've watched us play this season that I've enjoyed was against Manchester City, and that was just a draw. It's worrying times. We just don't look great in front of goal at all, and we haven't got any strikers who are hitting the net when we do have those chances. So really tough at the minute, mate.
I do wonder if part of it is that the concentration is on not giving up goals and being hard to beat, and as a result of that actually there's just not enough work being done on being creative. It's like, well, you guys are world class footballers. You should be able to go out there and do that. Come on, Philippe. I pick you. I put you in the team. You fix it for me, as opposed to, okay, here's the strategy. There's the weakness in the opposition. This is how we're going to take on their left back or their centre back or their left-sided centre back, or anytime the goalkeeper has the ball in his hands, we're going to push up here. It doesn't feel like there's any strategy behind what they're doing as an attacking force.
Yeah, there's nothing that seems uniform in our play going forward. It's very slow and sluggish, and then we have to call on a 37-year-old Ashley Young to get a rocket out of his back pocket and score last night. So, I mean, as much as I'm grateful, he's carried us through in some of the games this season. He's 37 years old. He's shown up in a time of need when we have injuries in those positions, and we're lucky to have him. So there's definitely a bit of an identity problem going forward. That's definitely a massive struggle, but something's got to change. Something's really got to change.
I enjoyed your tweet last night, Ty, where you shared the Christian Perslow statement on the sacking of Dean Smith, and just for the wording of it. After a good start to last season, this year we have not seen the continuous improvement in results, performances and league position which we've all been looking for. For this reason, we've decided to make a change now to allow time for a new head coach to make an impact. Quite pointed, and a statement is that a statement you expect to see a fairly similar wording of in the next couple of weeks?
It's a statement that was made of the reason of why we had sacked Dean Smith, and we haven't progressed. We brought Steven Gerrard in to take us to the next level. It was a risk, granted, because he had only done it at one club, but we brought him in to take us, push on up the table, push on up the top half of the table, at least be pushing for the Europa spots, playing good, attractive football, and we've done neither of those three. So there has to be a time limit on it. Obviously, the World Cup coming up soon. That's something where they could wait until that, but I can imagine it's a bit of a ticking time bomb at the minute.
But does Christian Perslow, as the CEO, have to take any of the flack here for what's happening at the minute?
Yeah, I mean, if it's him who's appointed the manager, then most definitely it has to be. But we have to take risks, and you only can appoint who's in front of you at the time, who was available when we appointed Steven Gerrard. So I will always get behind the manager no matter what. I'm not going to be toxic at Villa Park. When I go there, I'm always going to get behind the boys, regardless of recent performances or how we're playing. It's just to come away with a point against Nottingham Forest, and they really made us look bang average last night. So there needs to be something. There really needs to be something. It's concerning as fans. We're not enjoying the football we're watching. There was shouts of Gerrard out from the away end last night.
Ty, do you think that if a new manager came in, that the current crop of players are underperforming?
Yeah, I do. I think we've been unlucky with injuries, most definitely. Diego Carlos, massive loss. But defensively, I don't think we've been too bad either. Without him, I think we've been okay. But we are missing Bouba Kamara. That's a huge loss in the defensive midfield role. So those two things haven't helped at all. We've obviously had injuries at left back and right back as well, which also hasn't helped. But as a squad, we have a really good, talented pool of players. We could probably use one or two more in January if that is the case. I do think we do need one or two more. But yeah, the general squad as a whole, I'm very happy with, to be honest.
So I guess that's the key argument here is whether or not Gerrard's getting the best out of his available resources, or if a new manager came in, they could actually do better with the same resources and then at least build a plan for investment and a structure towards that investment into the future. A question on the recruitment, right? Because I'm not sure who was behind the recruitment in the summer. Does it feel like it's going in the right direction, and does it all feel like it's part of a plan? You know, because at the well-run clubs, there's a director of football who buys players, and the manager uses those players to implement his style, and they're the clubs that are generally successful. You can see that there's a plan behind it. Maybe with the injuries, it's hard to judge whether or not those players suit Gerrard's style.
Yeah.
What's your instinct about that?
I mean, Bouba Kamara, huge talent, 22 years old, Champions League experience, got him on a free. Great signing. Diego Carlos, proven in Europe, great signing. Philippe Coutinho, most expensive Premier League transfer in history. No goals and assists in 10 games. It's the talent's there for the players, but it's just not clicking on the pitch. It's really not clicking on the pitch. And that is where somebody has to be held accountable for that. I mean, we did lose Michael Beale, who was Gerrard's number 2. He's took on a managerial role at QPR. Never easy to replace a character like that. He's very talented at what he does, and he's very good in his tactical abilities. Somebody just has to be held accountable for that. I mean, I don't think there's a problem in the recruitment process in terms of the players we have recruited. I'm happy with the business we did in the summer. We probably could have used one or two more. We definitely could have used one more in the middle, another 8. But there's players like Cameron Archer on the bench who aren't getting any minutes. We didn't send him out on loan, but he's not really featuring. He came on last night. He didn't look too bad when he came on. He looked like he was hungry to do well. He was hungry to put a ball in the box. Once he tried to ping a ball into the box with his weak foot, and then he tried to header a ball across goal as well when he could have just headed it in. There's definitely a player there as well, but if he's not going to get the minutes, send him out on loan and let's get somebody in January who he's going to start and play, because it's not working currently as it stands. We've got to do more. 7 goals in 9 games, it's just simply not good enough.
Like you mentioned Coutinho there, Ty, and he was someone highlighted by Jimmy Carragher on Monday Night Football last night, where he said he was a million miles off it. He's a shadow of himself. And you mentioned the stats there. I think it's 1 goal involvement in 20 appearances at this stage, which is brutal from his point of view. He's the only attacking player as well that was actually bought by Steven Gerrard. And then after the game, Gerrard name checks him and Ings and Buendia, Watkins as these players who now need to actually just stand up and show a bit of leadership for the team. From the Coutinho point of view, it's very concerning as a Villa fan, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is. But we know that the players in there. But we say that with everybody. But how many times can you say we know there's a player in there? How long can you be out of form for? It's we've collectively as a team. Everybody has a bad game. It's acceptable, but we've got to continuously as a team keep moving forward, and the form just has to be better across everything going forward. We look stale in the middle. We look stale going forward. Defensively, luckily, we've been okay. Emi Martinez had a great game last night, but with someone like Coutinho, you'd expect to see a little bit more. If that stat is corrected, 1 goal involvement in 20, we just need to see a little bit more. We really do. Emi Buendia's not getting the starts, not getting the minutes that he deserves, and he most definitely has that in his locker to do those things. So if you can't be starting a player who's not creating those chances, who is out of form, you've got to give them that kick up the backside and give somebody else a chance who's hungry and waiting, who can play in the same position.
I do wonder about the responsibility that Purslow feels and the connection that he feels with Gerrard, how easy it's going to be for him to make that decision to move on, because ultimately it does look like it's bad business from him. Take Gerrard fails, it's his responsibility. The only way to get around that is if you do get somebody who's an excellent manager, and I don't know, is there a ready-made list of candidates? And maybe you never know about a good list of candidates. That's how good football should work. But Who do the Villa fans believe is a credible replacement for Gerrard at this point?
From looking on Twitter alone, there's only one, and it's Pochettino. He's the only one that's really... There was calls of Potter before he went to Chelsea, which would have been great for us. Local boy as well. It could have been another fairy tale there, but Pochettino seems to be the only one who has really been spoken about. But would he come to Aston Villa? I think it'd be a great project for him. Should that be the case? Should we get rid of Gerrard? I think he would be a great successor to him to, take us to that next level, because he's got the experience in those areas as a manager. So whether he'd come to us or not is a different story. But again, a great project to take on going forward. You've got a really good base of players, a really good, strong core of players, and then you only can move up from there.
The bare facts, Ty, are 9 points from 9 games, 3 points, I think it is, above the relegation zone. And you look at the fixtures coming up, you've got Chelsea at home next, then Fulham away, Brentford at home, and then Newcastle away and Manchester United at home. So not the easiest run of 4 or 5 games coming up. Based on the current squad that they have and the players at Gerrard's disposal, where do you think they should be in the league standings at the end of the season?
In the current, you mean how we're playing currently?
Before the season, with that squad, just looking and forgetting the results so far this season, and you looking at that squad before the season started, where do you think they should have finished?
There should be no reason for a top half of the table push. There should be no reason why we can't push for the top half of the table with that squad. Absolutely no reason whatsoever. But as we said, 7 goals in 9 games. Where are the goals coming from? There's no attacking threat. There's no identity going forward. It's really stale and really poor to watch as a fan. It's so frustrating. And to all those fans who have gone there on a Monday night to Nottingham to watch us play and, sung for 90 minutes and then have to endure that. It's a massive shame for them. Tyrone Mings has gone over to everybody, gone over to the fans and had a chat to the fans. Nobody else really did that. He went directly up and spoke to the fans, and he was the only player who did that. And that's the player who was stripped to the captaincy.
I mean, when you think about that, right? Like, I just don't believe that Gerrard has any emotional intelligence when it comes to dealing with the players. I don't believe that he's got the ability to take Ollie Watkins' struggles and convince him that he's a great striker and that he can kick on. Like, under a good manager, Ollie Watkins would be scoring goals because he'd believe in himself and he'd have confidence. Emi Buendia would believe that he deserves to be in the Premier League. And no good manager would have treated Tyrone Mings the way that Steven Gerrard did, because it was like taking a club hero, cutting the legs from under him, and then he needed him the next week and Tyrone Mings had done nothing wrong. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And that's the main problem I have with Steven Gerrard. Well, that and the fact that I don't have a clue what football he's trying to play. Is he a team who wants to press? Is he a team who wants to sit back and hit you on the counter attack? Is he a team who's got 3 midfielders who are going to keep possession? I don't know what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it's that's the unfortunate thing, isn't it? We've gone through a massive change. If there was things going on behind closed doors that we don't know about, then they're not really things that we can comment on. So we understand to an extent, but for him to go over after being stripped to the captaincy, he doesn't owe us anything to go over. He's not the captain. He's gone over to chat with the fans, and he understands that they're frustrated when they're calling for the manager, to be gone. So for him to go over and be that professional and chat to the fans just shows what type of person that Tyrone Mings really is. So huge credit to him that he still plays that leadership role. He's the last one out. When everybody's gone inside after full time, and he's outside talking to the fans, to the people who've travelled there. So absolute fair play to him. He's very in touch with the fans, always doing good for people on Twitter. He's really a good soul. So he's still showing that he's a leader in many ways on and off the pitch.
No bottle, I think Roy Keane said after the game that these Villa players have no bottle, and I know Keane loves a line that's gonna stand out for the social clips, but that's something that shows a little bit of bottle, at least, Ty, when Tyrone Mings is walking over to the fans. Like, do you think more of the players should be kind of stepping up like that and holding their hands up?
I don't expect everybody to go over, all 11 players, and go over and take an earful from the fans, but Tyrone Mings definitely has a connection with the fans, and I think that's very important. I think he's one person who is very connected to the fans. And he's been around a long time. He's been with us on this journey to the Premier League from the Championship. He's been with us all the way. He's really been there for every step of that. So he's very connected. He's one of us. He really is a villain, and it's just a shame to see that he has to do that, and he's the only one who does do that. But if we haven't stepped up as a team, then collectively your captain should be going over as well.
Yeah. Is Jacob Ramsay actually, I don't know, has any player, I might have given the answer away here, has any player actually improved under Gerrard?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't want to. No. I'd say the answer is no. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. Maybe my head is clouded with judgment of last night, but I can't really think of anybody who has excelled under Gerrard. I can't.
It did feel like early stage when Gerrard just arrived that Ramsay was given more freedom or confidence and was doing well, but I don't know if that he's maintained that progression, and I don't know if, like, I think maybe this is where he would be anyway. I suppose I'm reluctant to give Gerrard too much credit for Ramsay emerging as like a very good player, because it's just hard to see where the work is showing up.
Yeah, we know the talent's there with Ramsay. At the start, when Gerrard come in, he did look like he was excelling. He got a new contract as well. It looked like he was really growing into a young man with great talent. But last night, a bit of a hothead. But he did keep getting snapped. The ref didn't protect him. I think 2 of the 3 fouls, or maybe even all 3. There was times where there were challenges that were a bit naughty on him. So I could understand where the frustration was coming from. And obviously we weren't playing the greatest. We probably just got a bit on top of him. So I really don't. I understand why last night he may have drifted off a little bit, and he got a yellow card, then ultimately got took off in the end for us to go a little bit more attacking. But you've got to keep your head, you've got to keep your cool in those situations, especially when we're chasing 3 points in the situation that we're in.
Can I just ask you a last one from me, Ty? A bit of a random one, but we've been kind of talking about Monday Night Football on the show this morning, the Sky Sports coverage, and referencing a lot of the talking points that came up between Keane and Carragher and the top threes, the lists. Like, we often joke when a game isn't maybe as sexy as some other games, like maybe it might seem unfair to Nottingham Forest and Villa fans, but it's not the Monday Night Football game that gets everyone's juices flowing. For someone who supports one of those teams, how do you feel about watching them? I think it was only maybe 7:35 or 7:40 p.m. before the build-up actually started for the game itself. So I'm interested to know how that makes a fan of one of those teams feel.
It is hugely frustrating as a fan of one of those clubs. It is hugely frustrating. I think it's disrespectful to the clubs. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that when we're lining up for a corner or a substitution that they don't show a quick ad break of something that happened in Arsenal v Liverpool the day before. I understand the size of the clubs in terms of fans, but Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest are no small clubs. Nobody in the Premier League it's the biggest league in the world. There's more than enough coverage, more than enough to talk about during those shows, in the build-up, to have a good pre-match build-up of both teams. Let's talk about Villa and how we're doing recently. Okay, it might not be positive, great coverage that we want to see, but there's been nothing happen recently where we've looked great. But let's look at things and look at where areas we needed to improve leading up to this game. Let's look at Forest, the money they've spent in the window, their rise back into the Premier League. Look at those things, build that up, build that suspense up before the game. But instead we're watching 20 minutes before kickoff whether Gabriel Jesus handballed the ball or not. Who cares? It was yesterday.
I guess the only comeback is Villa need to do better, have been more compelling. Do you know what I mean? Like, I understand your frustration 100%, but if Steven Gerrard's team were like swashbuckling their way through and creating loads of chances, there'd be more for them to analyse and more for us.
It's nearly more interesting when they're doing badly.
Well,
teams as well. There's a certain element of.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe there is a reluctance to criticise Gerrard too. I don't know. Like, Ty, one last thing. You said you're never going to be toxic, and I totally appreciate that. And I think that's probably the right thing for you, and probably the right thing for most fans. And yet at the same time, there comes a point where it's probably going to be the toxicity in the stadium that forces the hand of the chief executive and the owners. So it's this kind of weird balancing act where you're like, but I support my team. What's the right thing in the long term? When do you think the fan base will turn enough, or are we kind of at that point? If they were to lose their next home game, for example, is that just going to be the stadium as one saying, right, come on, it's time, move on, sack him?
I mean, we play better against the bigger clubs. we 2-1 against Arsenal. We gave Man City a very good game. Who knows what Aston Villa are going to show up? And that's part of the problem, isn't it? What Aston Villa are going to show up each game. We really don't know. There's no consistency in any part of our form, in any half of football. I will go to Villa Park regardless of how we are playing, whether I believe Gerrard should go or not, and I will sing my heart out until I lose my voice. It's just, I'm always going to be that guy. I'm not going to go in the stadium and boo from kickoff. Are things rubbish? Yes. Do we deserve better? Yes. Should we be better? Yes. But I'm still going to go there and sing my heart out. But again, if we don't fight against Chelsea, there will be shouts for Gerrard out at full time. There will be.
Ty, great to have you with us again. Thanks a million, man. Cheers.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
It's Ty Bracey giving us the Aston Villa fans' view there on the situation and just how much longer it's going to last for Steven Gerrard.